Int, a modernist home in Los Angeles. Morning. The aroma of freshly ground coffee blends with the quiet hum of early morning LA traffic. Keanu Reeves, 59, ruggedly handsome and dressed in a well-worn black hoodie, sits cross-legged on the floor. His German shepherd Sammy snores beside him. A small candle flickers on a low table near a half-read paperback. Man's Search for Meaning, by Viktor Frankl. His phone buzzes. A text from his publicist, Maya. Maya, you won't believe who wants you on their show. He raises an eyebrow, sets the book down, and picks up the phone. Int. Maya's office. Later that day, Maya Sanders, sharp-witted, mid-40s, PR extraordinaire, with a wardrobe that screams "I charge by the minute," paces in front of Keanu. Maya, Clive Maxwell wants you on his show. Keanu, deadpan. Did he lose a bet? Maya, ignoring the jab. Look, I know he's a human cactus, but the show's a gold mine for exposure. Plus, he never invites guests twice. This is big. Keanu, I'm not trying to get big. Maya, I just finished filming a movie where I talked to a ghost cat for 2 hours. I'm very okay with anonymity right now. Maya, he's offering a whole segment, full sit-down. The producers want you to talk about grief, about kindness. They think it'll humanize the show. Keanu looks out the window. A man on the sidewalk outside helps an old woman pick up her groceries. He smiles faintly. Keanu, let's do it. Maya, wait, what? Keanu, grinning. Maybe Clive needs to be reminded of a few things. Int. The Clive Maxwell Experience. Green room. Night of taping, the green room is cold. And not just temperature-wise. Decorated in grays and silvers, it looks like a Bond villain's break room. On a sleek sofa sits Keanu, sipping from a chipped ceramic mug he brought from home. An assistant pops in, chipper as caffeine. Assistant, Mr. Reeves, 10 minutes to air. You're up right after the viral TikTok brain surgeon and before the Swedish techno-magician. Keanu, so I'm the warm-hearted buffer between scalpels and synths? Assistant, laughs, confused. Sure. The door closes. Keanu leans back and closes his eyes. Flashback. XT, City Park, 1993. Younger Keanu sits on a bench, hoodie pulled low. In his hands, a handwritten letter. The words, "I'm sorry I couldn't be stronger. Take care of my books." This was the day after River Phoenix's funeral. Back to present, Int. Studio Sita. Studio audience claps as Clive Maxwell struts onto the stage. Clive, late 50s, unnaturally tanned, with teeth so white they may be self-aware, is the apex predator of late-night television. His show isn't just a talk show. It's verbal blood sport with a studio band. Clive, to audience. Tonight, folks, I have a treat. A man who's either the most profound soul in Hollywood or the best meme factory since sliced bread. Please welcome Mr. Keanu Reeves. The crowd erupts. Keanu walks out to thunderous applause, bows slightly, and shakes Clive's hand. They sit. Clive leans back, crossing one leg over the other like a bored philosopher. Clive. Keanu, you're like a unicorn, or a VHS tape. You shouldn't still be here, but everyone's glad you are. Laughter. Keanu, smiling. Thanks, I think. Clive. So tell me, how does a guy who made his career dodging bullets in slow motion end up spending his weekends riding the subway like it's 1998? Keanu. Because I like people, and trains, especially the ones that aren't trying to blow up. The audience laughs warmly. Clive's smile is shark-like. Clive. Don't get me wrong, you're beloved, it's just strange. You're rich, famous, and you've got that whole tortured poet in boots vibe. Why haven't you gone full Hollywood? No mansion, no scandals, not even a tequila brand? Keanu. I think success is quieter than people expect. The tone begins to shift. Clive tilts his head like a vulture noticing a limp. Clive. You've had a rough life. Lost people. Lost love. Are you haunted, Keanu? A murmur in the crowd. Maya stiffens in the wings. Keanu, softly. We're all haunted. It's what we do with the ghosts that counts. Clive pauses, momentarily caught off guard. Then, the twist of the knife. Clive. But come on, doesn't it ever get old? The tragic loner act? I mean, some people think it's just a PR move. Gasps ripple through the audience. Keanu leans forward slightly. His voice is low, steady. Keanu, do you want to know something real, Clive? Clive blinks. Keanu, I once spent Christmas alone on a park bench because I didn't want to ruin anyone else's day. I've held hands with people who were dying and listened to them apologize for being a burden. I've driven a stranger home from the airport because their cab left without them. Keanu conted, I don't do those things for headlines. I don't care about headlines, I care about moments. The audience is silent. A kind of reverence blankets the room. Keanu, calmly, you can make fun of me, Clive, it's okay. But just remember, every joke you make might be a memory someone else is trying to forget. Even Clive doesn't have a quip for that. Int. Backstage. Later, the segment is over. Clive exits to his dressing room without a word. The audience gave Keanu a standing ovation. Maya rushes up, eyes wide. Maya, you didn't just go on the show, you reprogrammed it. Keanu, he needed a mirror. I just held one up. He walks past her, down the hall, and out into the night. XT. Street outside studio night. Keanu steps out into the cool air. A young woman approaches shyly. Woman, Mr. Reeves, you don't know me, but I saw you once at a hospital. You were bringing books. My brother was there. You gave him one. It helped. He nods, tears quietly filling her eyes. Keanu, I'm glad he found something in the pages. Woman, smiling. Thank you. He walks away into the night, leaving behind nothing but footprints and a room full of people who will never forget what grace looks like. Int. The Clive. Maxwell Experience. Studio hallway. Moments after the first segment, the audience is still buzzing with the afterglow of Keanu's quiet truth bomb. In the hallway behind the set, studio staff whisper behind clipboards like churchgoers exiting a deeply uncomfortable sermon. In his dressing room, Clive Maxwell tosses his cue cards on the counter. He stares into the mirror. Something foreign flickers in his eyes, doubt, or maybe something older. Guilt? Inti. Studio. Segment 2. Begins. The studio audience returns from commercial break with a round of applause that feels more ceremonial than celebratory. Clive is back in his seat, a little less swagger in his shoulders. Keanu sits calmly, legs crossed, looking as if he's meditating under hot studio lights. The teleprompter flashes. Segment 2. Humor pivot. Let's talk about your sad life. Clive clears his throat. Clive. So, you said earlier we're all haunted. Tell me more about your ghosts, Keanu. Keanu smiles gently. You don't want to meet them all, Clive. Some don't leave quietly. The audience chuckles, then falls back into silence. Flashback. Inti hospital room. 2001. A pale young woman lies in a bed. Kim Reeves, Keanu's sister. Her smile is thin but real. Keanu sits beside her, reading aloud from a fantasy novel. Kim. You know you're terrible at dwarves, right? Keanu, mock insulted. This is premium dwarf voice work. That accent is elvish adjacent. She laughs weakly. Then, a coughing fit. He sets the book down, holds her hand, waits for it to pass. Kim, you don't have to stay. Keanu, I do. Back to present, int, studio set. Clive, you've been through things I wouldn't wish on anyone. Your girlfriend's accident. Your daughter. A hushed gasp from the audience. Maya watches from backstage, white-knuckling a stress ball that's now shaped like a cube. Clive, doesn't it ever feel unfair? Don't you ever get angry? Keanu leans back, folding, His hands. Keanu. Of course, but I don't live there. Grief is a room I visit, not a home I decorate. There it is. The line. So simple. So human. Keanu. I've screamed in empty hotel rooms. I've broken down mid-scene. I've walked away from projects just because I couldn't pretend to smile that day. The audience is locked in. Keanu. Conted. But pain is a teacher. It asks you who you really are. NT. Studio booth. Same time a young sound technician Jasper watches from his control board. He wipes his eyes and mutters, "Dude, just Jedi mind-tricked a whole crowd." Back to set Clive. "That's poetic, but Hollywood isn't built on poetry, it's built on ego. Power. Come on, don't you ever want to just lose it? Be someone else?" Keanu. "Sometimes, but I've met someone else. He wasn't happier, just louder." Clive laughs. "It's a little too loud, a little too forced." Clive. Okay, let's pivot, let's go lighter." He picks up a card from the stack on his desk. Clive. "So, there's this story in a tabloid, take it with a dump truck of salt, about how you once gave away 90% of your Matrix salary to crew members. Is that true, or are you secretly Santa Claus?" Laughter from the crowd. Keanu raises an eyebrow. Keanu. "It wasn't 90%, and I'm not Santa. I just don't believe I'm worth more than the people who make the lights work and keep the set standing." Clive. "So it's true." Keanu. "Parts of it. I've done okay in life. Doesn't mean I stopped being human." NT. Studio lobby. Meanwhile, a woman in a worn coat walks up to the front desk. She clutches a crumpled letter and an old photograph of Keanu standing in a soup kitchen. Woman. "Is he here? I just want to tell him thank you." Kaku Studio. Back to set. Clive's smile fades. For a flicker of a second, his host persona slips, and we see something raw behind his eyes. He tries to recover. Clive. "You know, this isn't how these interviews usually go. Usually I'm the one in control, the puppet master." Keanu, playfully. "Then maybe it's time the puppet's got a voice." Laughter. Real warm laughter. Keanu. "You know, Clive, I used to think pain was the enemy. Now I think it's the signal." Clive. "Signal of what?" Keanu. "That it's time to reach out, to listen, to stop pretending we're all okay." ENT. Studio. Commercial break. The lights dim slightly. Clive leans in. Clive, quietly. "Off the record. My son died 6 years ago. Overdose. I never told anyone." Keanu's eyes soften. Keanu. "I'm sorry, Clive. Clive. I turned it into this show, this act, because I couldn't stand to be real. Being real hurt too much." A long silence. Keanu. "Then let it hurt. It means you still love him." Clive looks down, blinking fast. INT. Studio backstage. Moments later, Maya watches through the monitor, stunned. She whispers to the assistant beside her. "Maya, this isn't a talk show anymore. It's therapy." INT. Studio. Final moments. Of segment 2, Clive turns back to the camera, wiping his eyes quickly before the audience sees. Clive. "Folks, we'll be back after this break, but tonight's not about jokes. Tonight's about remembering we're all still learning how to be human." He turns to Keanu. Clive. "Thank you, man. Truly." Keanu nods. The studio lights dim. INT. Studio bathroom. Later, Clive stands at the sink, alone. He looks into the eye mirror. No cue cards, no script. He whispers to himself. Clive. 6 years, and I finally said it. INT. Green room. Same time. Keanu sits alone, sipping tea. Sammy, his loyal German shepherd, lays at his feet. A quiet knock on the door. It's the woman from the lobby. "Woman, I didn't mean to intrude, years ago you helped me and my son, we were homeless. You gave him your jacket." Keanu smiles. "Keanu, how's he doing?" Woman, Graduated college last year, got into nonprofit work, said he wanted to help people like you helped us. Keanu takes a breath. His eyes shimmer. Keanu, that's the best thing I've heard all day. XT. Studio parking lot. Later that night, Keanu walks alone to his motorcycle. He stops, looks up at the night sky. From behind, Clive calls out. Clive. Hey. Keanu turns. Clive. Would you come back sometime, not as a guest, just as a person? Keanu nods. Keanu. Sure, but only if you let the real Clive do the interview. Clive smiles, for the first time, genuinely. Clive. Deal. Keanu starts the bike. The engine roars. Clive. One more thing. Keanu. Yeah? Clive. Thank you for showing me. There's still time to be decent. Keanu nods again, then rides off into the night. Int. The Clive Maxwell Experience Studio. Post-show silence. The stage is empty now. Just a few echoes bouncing off polished floors and abandoned cue cards fluttering under chairs. The lights have dimmed, but the air still vibrates with something unspoken. Like a theater after a thunderous performance, but no one dares say, bravo. A young intern, Lola, walks slowly through the rows of chairs, sweeping up candy wrappers and half-torn applause signs. She picks up a single tissue left behind, soaked. She pauses, confused. The show never made people cry. Int Network Editing Suite, 12:02 a.m. 3 editors sit in a small room, eyes glued to the playback screen. One, Kenny, a bearded Gen Z film student turned overnight editor, rewinds the clip of Keanu saying, Keanu. Grief is a room I visit, not a home I decorate. He hits pause. Kenny. Yo, he really just said that on our show? His coworker, Tamra, wipes a tear, sniffs, and nods. Tamra. Run it online now before corporate tries to edit it out. Kenny. Like post it raw? Tamra. No cuts, no intro music. Let it breathe. Int. Keanu's house. 3:11 a.m. Keanu sits in a low chair, barefoot, sipping cold green tea. Sammy rests his head on Keanu's foot. On the floor, no awards, no glossy photos, just books, records, an old guitar missing 2 strings. His phone dings, then dings again, and again. Maya, text. You broke the internet. In a good way. Call. Me. Also, what did you do? Keanu chuckles quietly. He picks up the remote and turns on the TV. Int. Newsrooms. Various. Early morning montage. CNN anchor looks directly at the camera. Keanu Reeves' emotional conversation with Clive Maxwell is being called the most profound moment in late-night history. TikTok explodes with duets, people reacting with tears, awe, and heartfelt confessions. A teacher plays the clip for her high school ethics class. The students are quiet, unusually so. A soldier stationed overseas records himself saying, I didn't think anyone remembered how to be human anymore. Thanks, Keanu. A hospice nurse in Michigan posts, he spoke like he'd been in the room with us, with the dying, and he didn't flinch. Int. Clive Maxwell's house. 5:45. AMC Live sits in a dark kitchen, a whiskey glass filled with black coffee. He hasn't slept. His phone won't stop buzzing. The screen is a storm of notifications. Clive, that was real. Respect. You're human after all. That moment changed me. Never thought I'd say this, but thank you, Maxwell. He laughs once, short and stunned. Then, he cries. For the first time in years, XT, New York Street, mourning a teenage boy. Sits on a stoop, hoodie pulled low, a phone in hand. The video of Keanu plays on loop. His eyes brim with something other than the numbness he's used to. His mother opens the door behind him. Mother. You okay, baby? Boy, quietly. Yeah, I didn't know men were allowed to talk like that. Int. Hospital. Children's. Oncology ward. Same morning, a nurse plays the clip on a tablet for a girl in a wheelchair. She watches intently, eyes wide. Keanu, on screen. Pain is a teacher. It asks you who you really are. The girl whispers. Girl. He sounds like someone from a storybook. Nurse. Maybe. Or maybe he just decided not to forget how to feel. Int. Podcast studio. That afternoon, an emotional support podcast. Host with millions of listeners says into the mic. Host. It's like we all forgot how to sit in silence. To let people just say things without interrupting. Keanu reminded us. Host. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't clap back. He just stood in stillness. Host. Beat. And the world stood still with him. Inti. Network executive. Sweet. Same time a room of marketing execs throw words like virality and momentum around like dodgeballs. The VP of Content Strategy, Dana, finally slams her hands on the table. Dana. Shut up, all of you. This isn't a content opportunity. This is what television used to be. Real, brave, honest. Guy in glasses. So we can build a campaign around that? Dana. No, idiot. We don't touch it. We let it stand. Int. School library. Day 2 students. A jock and a quiet girl who writes poetry. Watch the clip together in silence. Jock. Didn't know that guy had depth. I thought he just punched robots. Girl. He's been punched by life more than robots, I think. They smile at each other. A new bridge is built in that moment. Quiet and real. Int. The Clive. Maxwell experience. Edit Bay. Clive stands behind Tamra and Kenny as they rewatch the interview. Clive. Do you still have the raw take? The stuff we cut out before air? Tamra. Yeah. Why? Clive. We're going to air it. All of it. I don't care what the network says. NT social media headquarters. Somewhere in Silicon Valley, a trending board lights up. The Keanu moment. 11.7 million posts. Grace under fire. 8.2 million shares. Stillness. Keanu teaches us that power doesn't need volume. NT. Keanu's motorcycle garage. Evening. Keanu works on his bike, humming softly. Maya storms in. Maya. You're a prophet now, apparently. The Dalai Lama posted about you. In emojis. Keanu. Wiping hands. Which emojis? Maya. Hands. In prayer. Fire, a goat, and broccoli? Keanu. Sounds accurate. Maya. Beat. You changed something last night, and not just Clive. Keanu. It wasn't just me. I just said something true. And people were finally quiet enough to hear it. XT. Beach. Night. Keanu stands barefoot on a dark shoreline. The waves brushing over sand like whispers. He pulls a folded letter from his pocket. We see the handwriting. Thank you for reminding me that kindness still exists. I was going to end my life last night. Then I saw your interview. I'm still here. I don't know you, but I love you. Keanu folds it slowly, holds it to his chest. A single tear tracks down his cheek. Then he looks up at the stars. Keanu whispers. Stay. Whoever you are, just stay. Int. The Clive Maxwell Experience Studio. The next night, Clive sits alone on set. No audience, no music, just a single spotlight. He speaks into the camera. Clive. Last night something happened here that wasn't in the script. A man sat in stillness, and the world paused with him. I've spent decades making people laugh by making others uncomfortable. I didn't realize I was one of them. Clive. To Mr. Keanu Reeves. Thank you for not flinching, for not clapping back, and for not letting me hide. Clive. To everyone watching. Maybe it's time we let the stillness speak a little. More often. He clicks off the camera himself. Silence. Int elderly care home. Brighton, UK. Early morning, an 87-year-old man, Douglas, sits in a common room. The television tuned to a rerun of the Clive Maxwell Experience. Subtitles on. His hearing's not what it used to be. Keanu's face appears, calm, unblinking. Keanu, on screen. Pain is a teacher. It asks you who you really are. Douglas leans forward, puts down his teacup. His voice is brittle. Douglas. You hear that, Edith? That boy knows something. A nurse looks up from her paperwork. Nurse. Who's Edith? Douglas touches the locket around his neck. Douglas. My wife. Been gone 30 years, but I still visit her every day.
XT South Korea. Bus stop. Rainy afternoon. A teenage girl scrolls through her phone under an umbrella. Her eyes are red. Her backpack has a single word stitched in English. Hope. She stops at a video. The screen shows Keanu's quiet
face. She doesn't speak English fluently, but something in the stillness, the way his eyes hold grief without collapsing, speaks louder than translation. She presses share, adds a caption in Korean. I stayed, just like he said. Inti. Clive Maxwell's house. Same day, Clive sits at his kitchen table staring at a stack of handwritten letters. His assistant had forwarded them. Not emails, actual letters. He opens one. Dear Mr. Maxwell, I've watched your show for 15 years. I used to laugh at how you grilled celebrities, but last night I cried. Because you weren't just funny. You were human. Thank you for showing your heart. Yours, Lillian, 92 years old. Clive lowers the letter slowly. His eyes glass over. A beat. He opens another. Montage. Voices across the world. Various locations. Simultaneously. Voiceover. Various accents. I showed it to my dad. We haven't talked in 2 years. Now we're texting. My daughter said, I want to be like that man when I grow up. I never knew grief could sound peaceful. I finally forgave my mother. I didn't kill myself last night. I wrote a letter to my brother, the one I haven't spoken since the funeral. I remembered how to feel. He looked like he carried sadness and still stood up straight. I want to do that. That stillness, it healed something I didn't know was broken. Network boardroom. Late morning chaos. A room full of executives fights over the unexpected explosion of the Keanu moment. Executive 1. We need a Keanu special, a live therapy show. Executive 2. Call Oprah, call Brené Brown, call Mr. Rogers back from the dead. Dana, the VP of content, stands and bangs a coffee mug on the table. Dana, no one gets it. This isn't something you spin. It wasn't designed to go viral. That's why it did. They all stare at her. Dana, it wasn't a show. It was a mirror. Silence. She walks out. Inti. Keanu's house. Later, Keanu sits on the floor, surrounded by unopened letters. He holds a worn photo of himself and River Phoenix, laughing on a balcony in 1992. Young, unscarred, bright-eyed. He gently sets it aside, then opens a letter. My father died last month. I didn't cry. I didn't feel anything. Then I watched your interview, and suddenly I cried for 2 hours straight. Thank you for turning the faucet back on. His hand trembles slightly. He leans back, eyes closed. Sammy rests his head on Keanu's lap. Flashback. Movie set. 1997. Keanu sits off set, watching grips haul heavy lights. A young lighting tech, Marcus, drops a case on his foot and yelps. Keanu jogs over. Keanu. Hey, you okay? Marcus, stunned. You're asking me? Keanu, smiling. Pretty sure your foot's more important than my monologue. Years later, Marcus would become a gaffer on over a dozen major films, always telling the same story to rookies. Keanu carried a light rig for me once. Who does that? Unknown location. Dark room. Evening. A man sits in shadow, watching Keanu's interview on a loop. We don't see his face. Just a tattered envelope with a return address. Clive Maxwell, CO Paramount Studios. He lights a cigarette with trembling hands. He whispers, "Man, you're still carrying it too, huh?" We hold on the glowing ember of the cigarette. Then, superimpose. Brother. In T. Clive's private office. Night Clive sits with a bottle of water, no whiskey for once. He stares at an unopened letter on his desk. The handwriting is tight. Familiar. The return address? Thomas Maxwell, his estranged brother. Clive exhales. Deeply. Flashback begins. Flashback. Int. Childhood bedroom. 1970s two brothers. 10 and 8. Clive and Thomas, sharing a bunk bed, a single light bulb overhead. Clive reads a joke book. Thomas plays a quiet melody on a toy piano. Clive. You're such a nerd. Thomas. You're loud. Clive. Loud makes people listen. Thomas. Or makes them leave. Clive flinches. Even as a kid, he knew Thomas hit a nerve. Back to present, int. Office. Clive opens the letter. Clive, I saw the interview. You finally stopped performing. For a minute you let people see the boy under the suit. I don't know if you meant to, but it meant something. Let me know if you ever want to talk. No cameras, just brothers. T. Clive folds the letter slowly, picks up the phone. Int. Small recording studio. 2 weeks later. A new podcast is launching. After the applause. The first episode, Clive Maxwell and Keanu Reeves. A conversation with no audience, no sound effects, no music. Just two men, 2 chairs, and decades of wounds. Int. Podcast, excerpt, Clive. I thought vulnerability would destroy me. Keanu. It won't. But hiding from it might. Clive. I used to think the job was about being the smartest man in the room. Keanu. Now? Clive. Now I think it's about being the most human. Int. Library. Same day a group of strangers has formed a reading circle. They call it the Stillness Society. Every meeting begins with a minute of silence. Their motto, say less, mean more. Int. Elementary school, classroom, late afternoon. Teacher writes on the whiteboard, what does empathy look like? A student raises their hand. Kid. It looks like Mr. Reeves, from the TV. EXT. Candlelight vigil. Night a crowd gathers in a park. Spontaneous. Not coordinated. Candles flicker. No chants. No signs. Just silence. Solidarity. One speaker. Steps up. Woman. We live loud, but sometimes we heal quietly. She lights her candle last. Int. Keanu's house. Nida, final letter. You didn't save the world, Mr. Reeves. You reminded it that it didn't need saving, just listening. Keanu smiles, sets the letter down. He lights a candle of his own, then silence. Perfect, powerful silence. Int. Clive Maxwell's apartment. 4 a.m. It's quiet. Clive sits in a leather chair, a blanket thrown over his shoulders. The window. Before him looks out at the city, still asleep, unaware that he too has stopped performing. The podcast with Keanu aired last night. Reviews weren't just good, they were grateful. Yet Clive feels hollow. Something in him stirred, but nothing settled. He reaches into a drawer and pulls out a faded photograph. 2 boys in a sunlit yard. One is Clive, grinning too wide. The other, more serious, Thomas, his younger brother. There's a note written on the back. Before the storm. To Int. Keanu's house. Same morning, Keanu waters a plant. The same peace remains in his home. Stillness is his natural climate. He's not immune to noise, though. A knock at the door. Not hard. Hesitant. He opens. There stands a woman in her 60s. Strong posture with silver-streaked hair and a manila folder clutched to her chest like a life preserver. Woman. Mr. Reeves? Keanu. Yes. Woman, softly. My name's Dr. Amelia Holt. I was a grief counselor. I knew someone who knew both you and Clive. I think it's time you knew the truth. Int. Cafe. 1 hour later, they sit in a quiet booth. No background music. Just 2 cups of tea, steam curling like a story that's about to be told. Dr. Holt. Years ago, I counseled a young man named Elijah. Keanu nods. Clive's son. Dr. Holt. Yes. He never said his father's name, but he talked about the pressure, how laughter became currency in their house, how grief was unwelcome. Keanu listens, unmoving, like a stone absorbing rain. Dr. Holt. He also spoke of you, said he once saw you in a bookstore. You smiled at him. Just a smile. He said it. Was the first time in months he'd felt like he mattered. A pause. Dr. Holt. You didn't know him, but you saved him, for a while. Keanu closes his eyes. A single breath escapes him. Keanu. How did he die? Dr. Holt. Overdose. Self-inflicted. But it wasn't suicide, not directly. He was trying to go numb. The grief outpaced his body. Int. Thomas Maxwell's house. Same time, Thomas, Clive's brother, watches a replay of Clive and Keanu's podcast. The audio crackles, but the words hit clean. Keanu, audio. There's a part of every grieving person that just wants to be asked, are you still holding on? Thomas pauses the podcast. His hand trembles. He dials a number. Int. Keanu's house. Later that day, Dr. Holt places the manila folder on the table. Dr. Holt. Elijah left this for me. Said if anything ever happened, I was to give it to the man who smiled at me like I was whole. I didn't understand. Then, I do now. Keanu opens it. Inside, a sketch of a man standing in a subway train surrounded by light. It's Keanu. A letter, scribbled, messy, soulful. Dear whoever finds this, I don't hate my father. I just never met him without the applause. But I saw someone who lived without it, and he looked free. Mr. Reeves, your silence felt louder than any crowd. Thank you. If I'm not here anymore, just keep smiling at strangers. One of them might be me. Keanu swallows hard. His fingers tighten around the paper. Int. Clive's studio. Empty set that night. Clive sits on the couch meant for guests, alone. Thomas walks in. No big reunion, just presence. Clive. You came. Thomas. I heard your voice again. Not the showman, you've been waiting decades. Clive chuckles without mirth. Clive. I don't even know who that is. Thomas. Then we'll find out together. They sit in silence. Flashback. Int. Maxwell family kitchen, 1980s. A young Clive stands by a newspaper reading aloud in a British accent. His father shouts from another room, Father, quiet down, clown. No one pays for whining. Clive blinks. Shuts down. Thomas peeks around the corner. Scared. Thomas. He didn't mean it. Clive. Didn't have to. I got the message. Back to present. Inti. Studio. Clive. I thought if I kept people laughing, they wouldn't look too close. Wouldn't see I was still 12, still hiding. Thomas. But Keanu saw. Clive nods. Inti. TV studio. Following week a surprise live segment is announced. No promo. No press, just a single graphic. A conversation on grief. Hosted by Clive Maxwell and Keanu Reeves. Inti. Live broadcast. Clive opens the segment. Clive. You knew me as a man who made people laugh, but tonight, I'd like to help them. Feel. The segment features stories from ordinary people. Letters, confessions, messages of survival. Keanu reads one aloud. You taught me it's okay to be soft. To be strong and soft at the same time. Int. Hospital room. Live feed doctor. Holt joins in remotely, sharing the story of Elijah. Clive listens, his face raw, tears falling freely. Clive. I never got to tell him I saw him, that I loved him. Keanu. Then say it now. He might be listening. Clive looks into the camera. Clive. Elijah. I love you, and I see you now. I'm sorry it took me so long. The studio is silent. Then a long, slow standing ovation begins. Not for performance. For truth, inti. Living rooms. Across the world, people watch crying. Some hug their loved ones. Others call their estranged siblings. A ripple, again. XT. Cemetery. 1 week later, Clive and Thomas stand before Elijah's grave. They say nothing. Then Clive pulls out a photo of the two of them as boys. Places it against the headstone. Clive. Forgive me, son. I'm unmasking now. In T. Keanu's house. Same night, Keanu finishes reading Elijah's sketchbook. He frames one drawing, the one of the subway train. He hangs it near his front. Sammy nudges his leg. Keanu whispers, Keanu. Still holding on. In T. A small podcast studio. 1 month later, no lights, no intro music, just two men in worn-out armchairs. Clive Maxwell, now bearded and somehow smaller, not physically, but ego-wise, adjusts the mic before him. Across from him, Keanu Reeves, in his signature all-black, leans back with crossed legs and the air of someone perfectly comfortable with silence. The studio engineer gives them a thumbs up. Recording begins. Clive. Welcome to Echoes, a podcast, where we listen louder than we talk. I'm Clive Maxwell, and if you're here expecting punchlines, you might be lost, or maybe just ready. Keanu, smiling. It's okay to be both. They share a quiet laugh. Int. Living room. Montage clips from the podcast go viral again. But this time, it's not about a singular moment. It's a series, a project, a mission. Clips like, Clive. When was the last time you forgave someone without needing them to deserve it? Keanu. Forgiveness isn't about deserving. It's about unloading weight you were never meant to carry. EXT. Street mural, Brooklyn. Day graffiti artists create a tribute wall titled The Keanu Moment. It features faces of people who found healing, with quotes from the podcast series painted around them. You can be broken and gentle. Grief taught me how to see again. Be still. Be present. Be kind. A homeless man sits against the wall, eating soup handed to him by one of the artists. He looks up and smiles. Man. First time I've seen a wall talk back with love. In T therapist's office. Clive sits across from a therapist. She's young, direct, and doesn't flinch. Therapist. What are you afraid of now? Clive. That the silence is only temporary. That I'll go back to chasing laughs because I'm scared of being still. She doesn't answer right away. Therapist. Then sit with it longer. Clive beat. I used to think the world wanted entertainment, now I think it just wanted company. Therapist. Then be that. In T. Community Center. Keanu helps organize crates of books into a mobile kindness library. A small van retrofitted to deliver free literature to underserved neighborhoods. Each book has a handwritten note inside. Keanu places the final copy on the shelf. The Alchemist. The note reads, You're not lost. You're just finding the part of the path no one told you about. KRent Live Event. The Stillness Conference. 1 month later. 1,000 people sit in an open space. No stage, no tech razzmatazz. Just chairs in a circle and microphones passed around. Hosted by Clive and Keanu. One attendee, a teacher, stands. Teacher. My student watched your interview. He told me he wanted to live long enough to tell someone thank you. He never said who, but he stayed. Applause, not loud but long, respectful, the kind that moves inward first. Keanu speaks softly. Keanu. Maybe the thank you wasn't meant for anyone specific. Maybe it was to the future he didn't think he had. Int Barbershop, Detroit. Dayan Old School Barbershop hosts a grief and grooming day. Free cuts and conversations. The clip of Keanu and Clive is playing on a small TV in the corner. A grizzled barber turns to a quiet teenager in the chair. Barber. You can cry, you know. Doesn't make you any less of a man. Hell, it might make you more. The teen looks at him. Teen. You cry? Barber. Today I did. Watching that man talk about his friend who died. I cried and then I cut 6 heads of hair. They both laugh. Int. Television studio. Clive returns. Special live episode of the Clive Maxwell Experience is announced, but reimagined. No cue cards, no celebrity gossip. Just conversation. Clive walks on stage to a standing ovation, but he holds up his hand gently. Clive. Let's sit. Let's breathe. Let's not applaud yet. His guest, a paramedic who started a suicide prevention initiative inspired by Keanu's words. His name is Leo. Clive. I used to think shows were measured by ratings, but maybe they should be measured by the lives that keep going after the screen goes dark. In Leo's apartment. Earlier that week, flashback. Leo watches Keanu's interview on his cracked phone screen, barely holding himself together. A half-written goodbye note sits on his kitchen table. Keanu, on screen. You're not a burden. You're a miracle pretending you're too much. Leo crumples the note, picks up the phone, calls someone. In Keanu's house. Night Keanu sits outside on his porch, stars above. Silence. Sammy snoozes beside him. Maya walks out holding 2 mugs. Maya. You know what the network wants, right? Keanu. I'm afraid to ask. Maya. A Netflix series about kindness. They want to call it Keanu Cares. Keanu snorts into his tea. Keanu. Please no. I'd rather wrestle an actual bear. They laugh. Maya. You think you're changing the world? Keanu. Thoughtful. No, but maybe I'm changing the silence between the noise. XT. Graveyard. Elisha's headstone. Clive visits Elijah's resting place again. He doesn't cry this time. He just places a letter under a small stone. We read the final lines. I'm still listening for you. Every laugh I offer now is real. Every silence sacred. I love you, I miss you, but I carry you. Enter recording studio. Podcast outro. Keanu's voice. Keanu, voiceover. Sometimes we don't need a revolution, just a reminder that being soft is not the opposite of being strong, that we don't have to fix everyone, just sit with them while they find their own tools, and that sometimes stillness isn't the absence of motion, it's the beginning of movement. EXT. Worldwide montage. A therapist's waiting. Room in Brazil overflows for the first time in years. A father in Berlin tells his son he loves him for the first time since his mother died. In Nairobi, a group of poets begins a spoken word series called The Gentle Revolution. In Tokyo, a high school introduces a quiet hour where no one has to talk unless they want to. A child in India writes a story called The Man Who Healed the Silence. Int. Clive's dressing room. Night Clive stares in the mirror, but now there's no mask, no character, just a man. He leans forward and whispers, Clive. You were worth saving, and you still are. XT. Film premiere. Los Angeles. 7 years later. The marquee reads, The Stillness Effect, a documentary by Lila Maxwell. The red carpet is subdued. No flashing paparazzi, no glitzy chaos. This isn't a blockbuster. It's a love letter. Among the modest crowd is Lila Maxwell, mid-30s, bright-eyed, steady-hearted. She's Clive's niece, and this is her legacy too. Int. Theater. Screening begins. Opening shot. Grainy footage from the Clive Maxwell Experience. Keanu's eyes on camera. That moment. The stillness. The heartbeat of it all. Keanu. Archival footage. Grief is a room I visit, not a home I decorate. Fade to black. Title card, The Stillness Effect montage, interviews in the documentary. A former teen in foster care, now a youth counselor. I didn't think grown men cried without breaking. Then I saw them do it on TV. I stayed because they did. Ku, a widowed nurse. My patients don't always want treatment. Sometimes they want silence. Keanu taught me not to be afraid of that. Lila behind the camera. My Uncle Clive was a performer, but the best act he ever gave up was pretending. Fine Tea Cottage, British countryside. Daycliff Maxwell, now semi-retired, lives in a modest home filled with books and plants he names after old comedians. He watches the documentary on a laptop. There's a moment where he speaks from the last podcast he ever did. Clive, recording. Laughter hides things, but stillness reveals them. I spent most of my life in hiding. Keanu just opened the curtain. He chuckles. Clive, to himself. Still out here turning me into a poet. Reeves. XT International Scenes. Years later. Ripple effect in Rio. A school holds quiet circle Fridays for students to decompress emotionally, inspired by the Keanu moment. In Cairo, a street artist paints a 3-story mural of Keanu sitting on a subway, golden light emanating from passengers around him. In Canada, a grief retreat center opens named Room of Stillness. On the door is etched, "Pain is a teacher, stillness is the classroom." KRNT, Keanu's home, lake cabin, current. Day Keanu is older now, hair silvering, eyes the same. Sammy has passed, but a new dog, Neo, naps by the fire. He sits at a wooden desk answering handwritten letters. No assistant, no schedule, just intention. He signs a note. "You are not alone. Keep walking." Keanu, he seals it, places it in a pile. The camera pans to the wall. Photos, drawings, and fan letters decorate it like a mosaic of human survival. XT. Documentary screening. Night. Lila walks on stage. She's not nervous, just grateful. Lila. I never got to meet Elijah, my cousin, but I met the men he changed, my father, and the man who smiled at him like he mattered. Leela commented. This film isn't about a celebrity. It's about the moment he stopped being one. Int. Final interview. Keanu in the documentary. Keanu sits outside his cabin. Mountains behind him. Keanu. I never set out to inspire anything. I just refuse to lie. I refuse to be louder than my truth. Interviewer. What do you think is your legacy? Keanu shrugs, but smiles faintly. Keanu. If someone out there held on for one more night, because they heard stillness and didn't feel alone, then I guess I did something good. In T Graveyard, Elijah's memorial. Day, Clive, and Thomas stand at the newly placed memorial stone for Elijah. Lila joins them. A group of strangers approaches, each of them carrying a stone. They place them around the grave, written on each stone: hope, strength, stillness, grace. A boy around 10 walks up to Clive. Boy. Are you the man from the video? The sad, funny one? Clive kneels. Clive. I used to be, but now I'm just the man who learned how to listen. Boy. My mom says your voice helped her not give up. Clive looks up at the sky, blinks away tears. XT. Subway, somewhere. In New York, a young man is standing on the platform, nervous, lost. A stranger beside him, older, long-haired, familiar, smiles at him. Keanu to young man. Train's coming, you'll make it. The train screeches in, the young man hesitates. Keanu gently pats his shoulder. Keanu. You're allowed to stay. The young man nods, steps forward, boards the train. Keanu remains. Behind, final shots, slow montage. A candlelit vigil in silence, held annually in over 40 countries. Podcast episodes archived in national libraries. Children named Elijah and Keanu born in tribute. Artists, teachers, nurses, fathers and strangers sharing a common look, not of sorrow but of recognition, of stillness. In T. Keanu's cabin. Night. Keanu sits alone with a letter in his hand. We don't see what it says, but we hear his whisper. Keanu, I didn't mean to be a moment. I just didn't want to look away. He walks to the window, looks at the moonlight, smiles. Fade to black. Title card. The Keanu moment was never about him. It was about us. The end.